welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 324, and today's date is March 26, 2014, and the title of this episode is U.S. Intelligence Reports Al-Qaeda Using Syria as a Launching Pad to Plan Attacks on the U.S. And we understand what's going on right here. The United States government, the central bankers, their backs are against the wall. They are in Ukraine, and that didn't work out as planned. They were in the Middle East. The people of the Middle East in each one of these countries are fighting back, trying to push the governments out of these countries. The United States is in South Africa, trying to maintain the governments there and all the puppet regimes, and it's getting more and more difficult. The people are fighting back, and they need to get into more countries to keep this dollar propped up, and this is why they've been using this propaganda now for a couple of weeks, actually probably about months now, to build up the propaganda about al-Qaeda, to build up lone wolves, to build up chemical weapons, to build up biological weapons, and to continually keep this in our face. And that comment by President Obama yesterday that he's more worried about a nuke going off in New York really seals the deal. We see what they are planning, and they understand they cannot get out of the situation unless they create some type of an event to bring the people and have them beg for the United States to go into another country. And again, we understand that this is happening, and this is why we're seeing all this information come out. But let's get through the economic collapse news and see what's going on out there. We understand Greece is having a terrible, terrible time. This is their third bailout. We don't know if this is going to go through. Again, the bailout deal might fall through because of fresh milk. Greek bailouts may be on the rocks due to the disagreement over the definition of fresh milk. Greece government risks another rebellion over bailout terms this week after milk producers lobbied against a move to free up prices as part of efforts to make the economy more competitive. Basically, for Greeks, milk is fresh if it is 5 days old or less, yet according to the always fascinating government, they are saying that milk could be as old as 11 or more days. And again, the people are pissed off about this. It has swept over the country and now even threatens to topple the government. So people are at their end. I mean, they're at the end here. They can't make it. They feel like the government has done nothing for them. They keep making promises that things are going to get better. These bailouts are going to help. Don't worry. But when they receive these bailouts, more people are laid off. More people lose their jobs. It's harder for people to survive. People are going to the black market to find the things they need, and it is just not getting better. And we see this throughout Europe. Europe is struggling right now. It is in a recession/depression, but don't worry. Italy's March consumer confidence is way up. Now, how possibly can this be? I mean, the unemployment right now has hit the highest point in Italy of almost 13%, but Italian consumer confidence jumped to its highest level in almost 3 years. Now, what brought this up to such a high level? Well, the increase is based on a very strong increase in future expectations for economic growth. This is what the government is feeding them. They're telling them, yes, we see things getting better. Down the road, we see growth. We see less unemployment. Yes, of course this is what they're going to say. But again, we have to remember the government officials always tell us what they believe we want to hear, not the truth, and it's always the opposite. And really what's happening is unemployment is going to go higher, debt is going to go higher, more banks are going to fail, they're going to need bailouts, and we see this continually going on and on. And we have to remember Greece. They told us, oh, after the first bailout, everything is perfectly fine, don't worry about it. No problems. Everyone looks someplace else right now. And then they had the second bailout. Now they're on the third bailout. It gets worse and worse and worse, and it does not get better. Now, we understand here in the United States that we're under this illusion that we're in this type of recovery, but we understand we are not. And the Fed is out there. Janet Yellen is saying that the U.S. economy is underperforming because we don't have enough inflation. And I've discussed this many times, but if we go back 14 years, up until now, so 2000 up to 2014, and we see inflation rate hit around 31.65%. So I don't know why they don't see inflation, but let's go through a couple of things and see how the difference in prices is pan out here. I mean, look at this. A barrel of oil back in January of 2000, it was $24.11, and right now in March of 2014, it's around $100. That's 314% increase. Let's look at a gallon of gas. In 2000, it was $1.27. Right now, it's $3.51. That's a 176% increase. Eggs. In 2000, it was 97 cents. Now in 2014, $2. That's a 106% increase. Ground beef was $1.90 in 2000. It is $3.73. That's 96% increase. I mean, I don't know where they're seeing there's no inflation, but we see a huge amount of inflation. A new car was $20,000 in 2000. March of 2014, it is $31,500. That's 55% increase. We are seeing inflation. Even at the post office, a stamp back in 2000 was 33 cents. God, I remember when it was at 10 cents. Now it's 49 cents and going up. That's a 48.5% increase. So we are definitely seeing inflation. It is continually moving up. They just don't want to admit it. If you really look at the products, what they're doing to cover most of this up is they're shrinking products, but the natural foods like apples, banana, meat, wine, all eggs, you could see prices continually go up. All the chemical foods that are in the middle of the aisle of the grocery stores pretty much can maintain their cost because they can shrink them down, they could substitute different chemicals, but natural food continually goes up, and it's getting worse and worse as time goes on. Now, the Census Bureau reported February durable goods number, which beat expectations of 0.8%, and it rose to about 2.2%, which, if you really look at this and you look at the durable goods information on what they're telling you, if you look, you could see that the defense and non-defense aircraft orders jumped by 21.1% and 13.6% in February. But if you take those numbers out, guess what? Durable good numbers pretty much only rose about 0.2%, not the 2.2% they are saying. So pouring defense money into aircraft and ordering more increased this number. And if we look at most of the numbers, they are manufactured to make people believe that the economy is getting better. I mean, with GDP, they went all the way back to 1929. They included research and development. They calculated all the way up to 2014 to make GDP look like it was in the positive range and things were growing. They channel stuffed cars into dealers' lots to make it look like manufacturing was up. Unemployment, they don't count those people that are no longer looking for work or really couldn't find work because there isn't any. So they don't count them, and we see unemployment come down. But if you look at real economic indicators, those people who are not working can't go out and buy things in retail, and you see retail declining. Those people who do not have jobs or part-time jobs can't go out and buy a house. This is why you see housing declining. There are definite signs out there that the economy is declining. It's imploding on itself, and they have to continually manipulate all the numbers to fit their illusion, and this is what they're continually doing. But Fed Bullard is out there, and he's saying, you know what? The U.S. unemployment rate will fall below 6% by the end of this year, and the economy is quite good right now. Despite the data from the early year from all that bad weather stuff, it looks like we're really going to push this through, and we're going to really be improving. Yeah, is it because we have this event that's coming that will allow the Federal Reserve to print money again? that will take all focus off the U.S. government and the Fed and put it on another country, saying that they crashed the economy. And again, this is all propaganda to make you believe the illusion that we are in a recovery. All the European nations are doing it right now. They did it during the summer because they thought they had that event in Syria where they'd be able to blame everything on another country when Syria decided to cyber attack us and bring down the financial institutions. But that, again, didn't happen. So now they have this new event that they're going to create to make all eyes off of the U.S. government and the Fed and put it on a different country, so we blame someone else for the entire collapse here. Now, I talk about real estate quite a bit, and we understand that real estate is, again, imploding. It's reaching the height of the bubble. Everything's starting to decline. The insiders know. The big financial firms know. This is why they've been laying off people in the mortgage companies, because there's no one out there to buy these homes. These were all propped up by investors, hedge funds, and they were giving free money from the Fed to pump into the real estate market to rent these houses until prices rose. And then they wanted to unload them to everyday Americans, but the everyday American's not out there. And what's happening is they brought back the 100% financing, they brought back the adjustable rate mortgages, and they brought back the subprime borrowers. And right now, again, we have to look at this. If this collapses, the government does not bail them out. But what's happening right now, and they realize that this crash is coming and they're getting nervous. The people, the financial Wall Street, those people are getting nervous because they realize what is coming and they're going to be screwed. So they need fast, quick money when this happens. They can't depend on looking inward in the banks because they're going to have other problems. And they're going to have to use that money to bail out the banks. But all these mortgage-backed securities, these are going to start imploding, and it's going to be a complete disaster. So what's happening right now, the U.S. Senate Banking Committee, Senator Tim Johnson, and another one, Senator Mike, I think his name is Crapo, C-R-A-P-O, they released a draft bill on Sunday that would provide explicit government guarantees on mortgage-backed securities generated by privately owned banks and financial institutions. What is going to happen here, the U.S. taxpayers will be on the hook for 90% of the losses on toxic mortgage-backed securities. It's going to be 10 times worse than 2008. And they're trying to pass this bill right now because they realize that this is coming and there's no way out of it. If the bill passes, U.S. taxpayers will be responsible for any and all bailouts deemed necessary by the regulators that I just mentioned. The legislation replaces the mortgage finance giants with a new system in which the government will continue to play a potentially significant role insuring U.S. home loans. They want to turn Freddie and Fannie into insurance companies that backs up the garbage mortgages created by the same banks that just ripped us all off for trillions of dollars on the same freaking swindle. So they're doing it again. And the banks played a role in drafting the new qualified mortgage standard, and this is their qualifications for each American to be qualified for a mortgage. No down payment, no credit scores, and anybody can get a house because they realize no one's buying these homes, and now they're trying to get out of it by having the government bail them out. And this is not going to fly. This is going to hurt the country when this collapses. This is not good. I mean, we had a bailout in 2008, and where did all that money go? It just disappeared. It went into the Wall Street pockets, into the banks, the CEOs and all these people. They gave themselves higher bonuses. They gave themselves more money, and they're just recreated the entire same circumstance that happened back in 2008. But this time, it is much, much worse, and they're trying to cover themselves right now because they realize they reached the top of the bubble. It's starting to come down, and it's going to be a huge, huge crash. They already have the bail-in documents where they're going to take most of the depositors' monies, but they realize they don't have enough to cover everything, so they need more money from the government, and this is what we're seeing right now. Now, Obamacare, we understand, is a complete disaster, and here we are. Obama decided to extend the deadline for American citizens once again, even though they told us they would not have to do this. They're not going to extend it again, and of course they just extended it because, you know, those people are having a very rough time enrolling in it, getting their paperwork together because the system just does not work. They're going to give them a little extra time right here. Now, Harry Reid was out there saying the reason why the website and the exchanges aren't working for people is because they're not educated on how to use the internet. I mean the internet. I'm just making fun of him. He's saying that people don't understand the internet, you know, and this is why it's not working. Well, let me ask Harry Reid some questions here. I mean, has he sat down and tried the website? Has he signed up for the Affordable Care Act? Actually, has he swapped his government insurance for a policy in the Affordable Care Act? No. And again, Harry Reid, when you click the next button on the exchanges and it just says wait, and then all of a sudden the screen comes up and says, sorry, can't process your request. How is this to be blamed on the person using the system? This is the website. This is not the person, and there's a perfect example. There was a 63-year-old woman came into the store and said, I almost got it. Every time I was just about done, it cut me off. It sat there, I clicked next, it spun, and then it said, oh, sorry, please try again later. Again, this has nothing to do with the people, and first of all, what does he know about the internet? Again, when you're designing a website to handle millions of people, it has to work. It has to be simple. There has to be some type of wizard that guides you through it, that you just hit next, pick this option next. This is a no-brainer. And again, when you click something and it doesn't work, what is the user supposed to do? There's nothing for them to do. Now, in Georgia, there is a historic gun rights bill that is going to be signed into law, and Georgia state legislator approved a sweeping guns everywhere bill that is expected to be signed into law by Governor Nathan Deal. The law allows gun permit holders to carry weapons into places that were previously off limits, like bars, airports, and churches. And again, according to the Second Amendment, we really don't need any of these laws, because any law that infringes or limits the Second Amendment is null and void according to the law of the land, which is the Constitution. And again, they can pass these laws to reinforce it, but we don't need it. If the people just stand up and say no, these laws are done. That's all that has to be done here. Because we have to remember, on the top of the document it says we the people. We are giving it to the government, telling them this is our contract. This is what you have to abide by if you want to be in government. If you cannot, you remove yourself and we put someone else there because you did not abide by our contract. And the people have lost sight of this, and this is why they're bringing in Common Core. This is why they're rewriting the Constitution, because they don't want people to understand that this is a contract that was created by the people, that was given to the government to follow. Okay, now, the U.S. Special Ops is planning a neighborhood watch for action in dark areas. And what this is, and it's very interesting, and we can see that this could spread into DHS, into FEMA, and be used right here on U.S. soil. Special Operation Forces are going to prepare and operate in a dynamic and diverse environments. And what they're saying is commercial sources and other government agencies have not yet gathered data and information on some countries of interest for which there is a critical need. The goal is to provide the U.S. military with satellite maps that chart people and their activities as well as topography. The Pentagon calls it human geography. Think of it as Google Earth on steroids. And again, they are building this system that will track pretty much every single person. And beyond that, American commandos want to gather locational data on infrastructure points of interest, including military installations, cell phones, tower locations, airfields, companies conducting mineral gas resource surveys, embassies, refugee camps, internet cafe locations, information on owners, smuggling routes for narcotics, humans, and arms. They also want to know about violent extremist organizations. And again, we can see how this could possibly be used here on American soil to track every single individual, to track the groups, see where they're going, and this is a very dangerous tool coming down the line because we are getting to that point where they are going to enact martial law and they're going to spread out with DHS all over the country to control the population. Now, we understand that Russia and the United States are battling over Ukraine. We understand there was a coup. And right now, over 70% of Russians think negatively of U.S. role in world affairs. The majority of Russians view the United States' role in world affairs as negative, and just 10% view it in a positive way. Now, if we look at the United States, most Americans right now disapprove of Obama's foreign policy. President Barack Obama's foreign policy approval rating continues to drop as the conflict between Russia and Ukraine remain unresolved. Just 36% of Americans polled approve of Obama's foreign policy overall. This compares to 39% just the previous month. So it is falling. But what's interesting about this survey, and we can see that most Americans don't understand what is going on. The poll found that 56% of Americans support U.S. sanctions on Russia itself. They really don't realize that if we end up doing this, that it's going to implode the economy of Europe and the United States. And again, we have a very, very fragile economy right now. Anything can make it go completely kaboom, implode on itself. And this, I think most people don't realize because the propaganda is out there that we are in recovery, housing is rebounding, everything looks great, the stock market's up. Those people who are investing in the stock market, they're seeing profits and they think everything is fine, of course, until everything crashes. Again, the stock market was reaching all-time new highs right before October 2008, and look what happened there. The stock market was hitting all-time new highs in October of 1929 until the stock market came crashing down right after that. So again, the stock market is absolutely meaningless. It is the last indicator that we are in a depression and everything is collapsing. Now, as we saw in Libya, where the Libyan government was out there for asking for help, we saw the Syrian rebels out there asking the world for help. Well, Ukraine right now is seeking foreign help. They're making a call out to the world to help defend atomic sites. Ukraine on Tuesday said it might seek foreign help to guard its atomic facilities amid the country's current turmoil. Ukraine's acting foreign affairs minister described a potential threat to many nuclear facilities and other critical infrastructure on the territory of Ukraine. There is no imminent danger. However, if the situation gets aggravated, we may need international assistance to protect these facilities. And this is how these countries get the UN or the United States to bring in troops, because they requested, the United States said, listen, they're looking for our help, and this allows the troops to come into the country. It's a little game that they play here. And again, Russia's out there saying, well, all of this and is really the problem of the oppositional government. They're the ones who've caused this. It is only the incapable Ukrainian interim government that can pose a threat to the Ukrainian nuclear facilities, the Russian foreign minister said on Tuesday. So they know what's going on here. They know they want troops to come in. They know they want to build up their troop size. Now, in Ukraine, the new non-elected government, which they are not elected, they were placed there into power. Before these elections, these alleged elections that are coming up, what they want to do, and Yatsenyuk is out there, and Yatsenyuk announced this last week, that all citizens were to be disarmed in order, he said, to help maintain order and assure a peaceful transition to a new government once the elections were held. When those are going to be held, we don't know. The deadline for turning in all weapons was set for the very next day, the same day Yatsenyuk was to sign an agreement with Brussels to obtain desperately needed financing. And what he went on to say that, but for now, the citizens are still allowed to keep their weapons on one condition, that they join the National Guard Army. If they join the army to fight against the other country like Russia, they can keep their weapons. And this condition is being opposed by the protesters who, according to the New York Times, enjoy widespread ownership of arms. Of course they do. They're protecting themselves, and of course, these people believe that such arms are necessary not only to defend the countries against possible foreign invasion, but to defend their freedom from potential government abuse. So they understand this, and the government, which is not elected, is now trying to disarm the people. And who put this government into place? That's right, the central bankers, U.S. government. They want to disarm the people. What do they want to do in the United States? Disarm the American people. Why? Because as we know, Mao said, and he stated, all political power comes from the barrel of the gun. The Communist Party must command all the guns. That way, no guns can ever be used to command the party. And history shows that all conquerors who have allowed their subject races to carry arms have prepared their own downfall by doing so. Yatsenyuk and Yarosh, they know their history. They realize before any type of election, they need all the weapons taken away from the people. Unless you join the army, then they know you are on their side and they're going to fight for them. At least that's what they think. But most likely they will if they join the National Guard. And the rest of the people, these are the people that they're worried about. Again, they are worried about them taking over and removing them from power. This is why they want all the weapons away from the people, and this is why we're seeing the same thing here in the U.S. But again, we have that pesky Constitution that is in the way of the central bankers. Now, Russia, because of all the spying and everything else, they're going to dump the iPads because they have backdoors in them for the NSA, and they're going to switch to Samsung. Samsung was first to certify products with Russia's Federal Security Service. Government calling for greater security of foreign IT partners. No plans to ban or replace sanctions on foreign high-tech products. They're going to replace the iPads with the new Samsung tablet because they are more secure. And again, we understand that Apple products do have backdoors for the NSA. And of course, U.S. officials are out there. They're raising concerns of increased intelligence gathering because now we just don't have those backdoors and we won't know what's going on. Again, all the Russian government has to do is create their own encryption, keep their method a secret, keep their key a secret, and guess what? They cannot hear, read, or do anything. The NSA will be completely blacked out from all of it. Now, Russia is raising its gold holdings by over 7 tons and brought their gold holdings up to about 1,040 tons right now. And again, Russia alone has some $400 billion in foreign exchange reserves, mostly in U.S. dollars. If they were diversified just 5%, worth some $20 billion of those reserves into gold, it would be equal to nearly 500 tons of gold, or nearly 25% of global annual production. And again, they're continually doing this, taking their paper dollars, changing it into gold, and removing their dollars from their reserves. Again, they're using the paper dollars from the central bankers to buy real hard assets. Now, the Central Bank of Russia, which is controlled by the Russian government, says that the ruble is completely sanction-proof, and they do not have to worry about it. It is safe. It's a safeguarded currency. They didn't go into anything further of why it is, but they're saying there is absolutely no worry if sanctions are put on Russia because the ruble is completely safeguarded against sanctions. Now, Russia is trying to establish a Eurasian Union by 2014. The union will be based on the EU model, removing barriers to trade such as tariffs, border inspections, and the need for travel and work visas. It will also establish a common customs code and a common regulatory agency. And again, they're doing this with all the other nations besides Europe and the U.S. They're doing it with China, North Korea, Iran, Syria, Egypt, Brazil, or India, all the other nations. And this union will cover 15% of the world's land surface, include more than 170 million people. The members of the customs union traded nearly $1 trillion worth of goods between them in 2011, spurred by the new agreement. Russia is hoping it will be expanded to include the resource-rich but undeveloped ex-Soviet countries. So they're expanding this all over the place. And again, Western leaders have been very vocal in their opposition to this union. Yes, because it is a direct threat. That is why. Remember, the United States, the European Union is in a decline. The other countries are improving. And this is what we are seeing right now, and this is what they're doing. You have to remember, all these other countries have been hoarding gold, buying gold left and right, building up their reserves, while the United States has no gold. There is nothing here. Now, of course, while they're doing that, Obama is out there and he's proposing extra NATO forces for Europe. U.S. President Obama plans to discuss with NATO Secretary General the deployment of additional military forces in Eastern Europe against Russian aggression. So they're building up forces because they believe that Russia is going to invade, and they've shown no signs of this whatsoever. They didn't do anything in Ukraine. Everything that they talked about, how they're advancing into the Ukraine and they have troops and more coming, 200,000. So far, we saw absolutely none of this. All the towns, the cities, the military commanders, the military soldiers all came over to Crimea, to the Russian side, and Eastern Ukraine wants a referendum to join Russia. Moldova wants a referendum to join Russia. And basically what the central bankers, U.S. government, EU got was the western section of Ukraine, which is absolutely nothing. And this is why they're not joining NATO, because it's not what they actually wanted. Now, India is out there, and they're saying they are ready to trade with Iran as soon as the sanctions come down, and they're not going to trade in rupees. They will use the euro, but they will not use the U.S. dollar. Well, this is not acceptable to the U.S. government. All natural resources in this region need to be traded using the U.S. dollar, and they are trying to get into their Iran's bank. They're trying to infiltrate the banks. The IMF, the U.S. government, central bankers are trying to control what currency is going to be used for trade for oil. And all this atomic and all this nuclear weapon talk is a complete illusion from what is really going on. And this is why the agreement is under lock and key. It's unclassified, but there's only a certain number of people allowed to see it. You have to sign in. You have to leave your phone. You can't take pictures. You only can read it in a certain room. Only certain people have access. And again, it cannot be taken out of the room. It cannot be copied. And again, this is because this is what they're actually trying to do. Now, the opposition leaders in Syria are trying to get a seat on the Syrian National Council. And again, the opposition Syrian National Council has made only marginal gains at meeting at the Arab League. They're trying to get a seat in the Arab League, and they were rejected because the opposition is not a government body. Again, most of them aren't even Syrian. And right now, Ahmad al-Jabbar, the head of the Syrian National Council, criticized the Arab League's decision to keep the seat empty, saying it was a message to Assad that he can kill and that he can he can have the seat after the war is resolved. Well, yes, because he is the government of Syria. The opposition leaders aren't the government of Syria. First, what you have to do is you have to get into the country and take over the government and become the government. Then you can have the seat on the Arab League. But I guess they don't see it that way because they're trying to do everything they possibly can to remove Assad from government. And again, they're losing the war, so they're trying different tactics. They tried it with the Geneva II talks to remove Assad. It didn't work. They tried it with the UN, with the humanitarian fiasco and the alleged charges against Assad. That didn't work. So now they're trying the seat in the Arab League, and that didn't work. So what do they have left? Well, the only thing they have left is to create some type of an event that will bring this full circle, where the United States can say, look what Syria did, we need to go in there. And guess what, Russia? You can do whatever you want. We're going in. Okay, so we understand that we're going to have some type of an event. We understand it's going to be financial. We understand it's going to be done with cyber attacks. We understand it's probably most likely going to be done with a dirty bomb or some type of biological or chemical weapons, and it could be a multi-pronged type of an event. And we understand that the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, the BAT systems, they all have kill switches at this time. And right now, the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission will examine the exposure of stock exchanges, brokerages, and other Wall Street firms to cyber attacks that have been called a threat to the financial stability. The SEC Commissioner Luis Aguilera, who said in a speech last month, there is a substantial risk that a cyber attack could cause significant and wide-ranging market disruptions and investor harm, and might bring down the economy. Now, again, we continually hear this, and we understand why they put these kill switches in, because they want to bring the economy down just enough to say, look, this country destroyed the economy of the United States. We had to throw the kill switches to stop it. But again, this wasn't because of another country. This was because the country was imploding on itself no matter what happened, but they have to make it look like it is another country. And the Financial Stability Oversight Council, a group of regulators led by the Treasury Secretary, said in 2013 annual report that a successful cyber attacks could pose a threat to the stability of the financial markets, and they're very worried about this. And what are we seeing right now? Well, yesterday, Obama said he was very worried about a nuclear weapon going off in New York City, and this is his biggest concern. And today, what do we see? Again, the propaganda continues because they want us all to believe that this event is going to be from another country. And again, it could be from Russia, North Korea. They're pointing to Syria right now. It could be from Iran. But they keep on bringing up al-Qaeda, 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 lone wolves. And what we're seeing right now is al-Qaeda operatives may be infiltrating Syria to establish a staging ground for new attacks against the West. U.S. intelligence and anti-terrorism specialists believe Syria have seen an influx of mid-ranking and other veteran al-Qaeda members from Pakistan in past months. The director of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency says al-Qaeda militants are seeking to establish bases in Syria to plan attacks on Europe and the United States. According to U.S. intelligence officials, al-Qaeda is seeking a launching pad now in Syria because they have access to hundreds of Americans and European militants who have gone there to fight against the Syrian government, and also because Syria is far away from U.S. drone strikes in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Based on our research and all our work and all the international partners, we know individuals from the U.S., Canada, and Europe are traveling to Syria to fight the conflict. Syria has become a matter of homeland security. DHS, the FBI, and the intelligence community will continue to work closely to identify those foreign fighters that represent a threat to the homeland. Again, what we are seeing right here is the propaganda buildup to this event. Because what do we understand? We understand that this economy is reaching the height right now. The propaganda that we're in a recovery is going full steam ahead. The Fed continually puts out there, they see unemployment going down. Again, this is all manipulated, so they can control it. And if we see unemployment goes down, we know why it's going down, because they control the numbers. President Obama's out there letting everyone know that we are in recovery. He's in speeches all over the country that we're creating jobs, housing's rebounding. This is all propaganda. European nations are out there saying that we are in recovery. We're going to see growth. We're seeing consumer confidence at all-time new highs. We saw this back in 2008. Consumer confidence was reaching new highs, and again, everything was falling apart going throughout that year. And this is exactly what we're seeing, but this time it's going to be a little different. The American people are already struggling. American people have lost 38% of their wealth. American people do not have the income that they did before. The housing market is worse off. The Fed is still continually printing. And again, just because they tell us they're tapering doesn't mean they really are. We don't know the shadow QE program they have going. They have Belgium taking up the slack and purchasing treasury bonds. We see the demand for treasuries among foreign nations is dwindling. We see Russia, we see China making deals with each other, now with India making oil deals, making natural gas deals, all bypassing the U.S. dollar. The United States, the central bankers are losing their grip on the world, and it's getting worse as time goes on. They realize this. This is why they're enacting that law about the government will bail out these mortgage-backed security problems. This is all because the economy is coming down, and they're building up the propaganda for this event. And again, I've said it many times, this is going to consist of cyber attacks. They've been telling us Iran, top 10 cyber attack force, Syrian Electronic Army, hitting CNN, hitting governmental websites, hitting Microsoft, continually letting us know, hitting CENTCOM, continually letting us know that Syria is behind this. Russia, China, also a cyber threat. We understand that the power grid is very vulnerable. They continually tell us this. Why? Because they want it to sink in that we are under a huge amount of threat from other countries. Because when this event occurs, they'll make it easier for them to explain what has happened. And they've been demonizing all these countries. When it happens, all they have to do is point their finger, and all the people who are not awake will believe, and they'll say, oh my God, I lost my money. I've been sitting in the dark for 3 weeks. There was a chemical explosion. There was a nuke explosion. We need to get back at these countries, and we want war. And again, this is how it's going to begin. Listen, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.